Okay, so I'm going to show you how to calculate the population variance and the population standard deviation, because you have to calculate this a little bit differently when you go into my stat lab. So I'm going to show you how to do it in my stat lab, but I'm also going to show you how to calculate this by hand, just so you have an understanding of how to do that. So let's go ahead and open it in StatCrunch, and you're going to calculate it very similar to the way we did before when we did a sample. You're going to go to Stat, and you're going to go to Summary, Stats, and Columns, and you're going to click on Variable 1. But then when you get down to Statistics, the formula is a little bit different. Instead of dividing by n minus 1 in the sample, we're going to just divide by n. So your number will be a little bit different when you're calculating the population. So we'll just we'll calculate those just to see. But for the population, you would want the unadjusted variance in the unadjusted standard deviation, meaning that it hasn't been the n minus 1, it hasn't been divided by n minus 1. So this has not been adjusted because it's population. We are going to divide by n. So dividing by, let's just look at it. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So for the sample, we would divide by 7 minus 1. We would be dividing by 6. But for the population, we're going to be dividing by 7. So that's why your number would be a little bit different. So let's compute. So notice that the unadjusted variance, which is the population variance, is 139.67. Notice that it is smaller than the sample variance. So that's because of the way we're dividing. And also your standard deviation is a little bit smaller. So that is how you calculate it using StatCrunch. Now let's talk about the formula. So if you go into question help and view an example, it will show you the actual formula. But sometimes the formula can be a bit challenging to understand. So we know already that our population is 7. We have 7 values. This is a different example, but we can still look at the formula from this example to get what we need. So here's the formula. Notice that, let me scroll up. Yeah, so notice that the variance, this stands for the variance, equals the sum of x squared I. So what you're going to do is, I just means each value. So this could be x1, x2, x3, x4, x5, x6, x7. So we're going to take the sum after we square each of the x values, minus the sum of all the x's. So here we're going to add all the x's together and then square them. So this is x squared I, and this is the sum of xi, and then square it. And you're going to divide by n. So you're going to take this minus this and divide by n. So let's look at that. And I'm going to pull it up. I organize it into an Excel spreadsheet. So when you want to open an Excel, you can click on the button over here and click Open Excel, and it will open the spreadsheet in Excel. So first you want to start with, we know that n equals 7. Step 1, find the sum of xi. So the way you would do that is you would add all of your x values up, and that's how I got 130. So I did equals the sum of these, or just add them in a calculator. Then The second step would be to find xi squared. So you take the sum of xi, and then you would square it. So I guess I could say the sum of xi squared here. So that would be 130 times 130, which would be the 16,900. So we found the sum of xi squared. Now we're going to find x squared I. We're going to square each data value. So each xi value, or x, we're going to square it. So we're going to square it first, and then we're going to add those up, and that's how we get the sum of x squared I. So here's the formula. I've written it out in words. So the sum of x squared I, which is, I'm going to click on my formula here, the sum of x squared I, which is 3392 minus the sum of xi squared. We see the sum of xi squared here is 16,900 divided by 7, which is n. Now you have to surround that in an extra set of parentheses because we want to subtract that first. And then the very last step is to divide by 7, and that is how you get the variance. The standard deviation is easy once you get the variance. To get the standard deviation, you can just do equals SQRT or take the square root in your calculator of 139.6735. And then, of course, you're going to round these numbers when you put those on the homework. I think it's 2 decimal places. So I can send you a copy of this spreadsheet with the steps also, and that may help practice the steps of finding the population variance and the population standard deviation. Now, as far as finding the mean, regardless of if it's the sample or the population, you will find the mean in the same way. And then if they want you to calculate the population variance, then they will have to tell you that. So that will be in the problem. If it's sample, they may not say sample, but if it's population,